Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Count it. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Desmond Bane's back edition. My name is Keith Parrish. The Grizzlies lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder on Saturday night. However, Desmond Bane returned and did not miss a beat. He played well, led the team in scoring with 22 points. So in this episode, I will talk about Desmond Bane's return. I'll talk about the game against the Thunder. Before I do, just a word to let you know if you live in Middle Tennessee, you need to come to Noble's Beer Hall on March 27th. On March 27th, I will be hosting the final Grizzlies watch party of the season as the Grizzlies take on the Lakers. So come to Noble's Beer Hall in Nashville, Tennessee. Watch the Grizzlies game with other Grizzlies fans. Will we see Brandon Clark play? Possibly. Also, because it's the last watch party of the season, I will be giving away lots of prizes. We have to empty out the Grizzlies prize cabinet. So come on down to Noble's Beer Hall, get yourself some Grizzlies prizes, get $1 off your Wiseacre drafts. Come have a good time. March 27th, 7 p.m., Grizzlies Lakers at Noble's Beer Hall in Nashville. All right. This game against the Thunder was very entertaining. The Grizzlies played quite well. I mean, the Thunder are the 1 seed in the West, and the Grizzlies hung tough all game. It was close at halftime. The Grizzlies trailed by 2. The third quarter got a little bit away from the Grizzlies, but a lot of that was because of our bench / our lack of a bench. If you want to point to one stat to be super excited about the game against the Thunder, the Grizzlies were plus 11 when Desmond Bane was on the court. The Grizzlies started Bane alongside Jaren, so we got these great Bane and Jaren minutes. The other starters were Santi Aldama, Luke Kennard, and Gigi Jackson. Interestingly, this is the first time all season that Desmond Bane and Gigi Jackson got to play together. So you look at that starting lineup and you think, that's a pretty decent lineup. We got Luke and Bane in the backcourt. Then you got Gigi, Santi, Jaren Jackson Jr. I can deal with that. The problem, of course, was the second unit. Like, Jaren and Desmond both came out of the game. The first 3 subs in off the bench, it was Conchar, LaRavia, and Wenyen Gabriel. So this, like, Desmond Bane, Luke Kennard, Gigi Jackson, Santi Aldama, Jaren Jackson Jr. lineup quickly transformed into Conchar, Gigi Jackson, Jake LaRavia, Santi Aldama, Wenyen Gabriel. That is very far from what I call a pretty good lineup. It's actually kind of hideous. It's kind of terrifying. In the first quarter, it was fine. Like, they hung in there, only got outscored by a little, but it was in the third quarter where it really hurt the Grizzlies. Like, it was 72-70 when Jaren and Desmond checked out of the game in the third quarter. Then you had this horrible lineup come in. I mean, horrible might be too strong. Less than ideal lineup come in, and then the Thunder ran off a 10-0 run. They ended up closing the quarter on a 19-5 run. They got up kind of big. The Grizzlies then fought back. They got within 2 in the fourth quarter, so it was still an entertaining finish, and I think as Grizzlies fans, you could say our standards have lowered to the point where it was just good to see some competent basketball. It was great to see Bane and Jaren playing together. So Desmond Bane had 22 points. He made 4 3-pointers. He had 7 assists, part of an overall season best 34 assists. They had 34 assists on 37 made baskets. Every starter had 4 or more assists. You had Gigi Jackson with a career high 4 assists. Jaren Jackson Jr. had a career high 7 assists. Luke Kennard matched his season high with 9 assists. So the Grizzlies were sharing the ball. The ball movement was great. And a lot of those assist numbers were because the three-pointers were going in. The Grizzlies made 18 three-pointers, helped, of course, by Desmond Bane's return. They made 18 out of 44 three-pointers. That's 40.9%. That's why the Grizzlies hung in this game. Unfortunately, it did not help them get the win, and the confusing season-long tradition of good three-point shooting seemingly having very little correlation to winning continues. It's kind of breaking my brain. It used to be if the Grizzlies made threes, they won the basketball game. But Desmond Bane, with his 4 made threes, this was the 23rd consecutive game with multiple made threes. He took care of the streak early. He booked into the first quarter with three-pointers. First play of the game, they ran a play to get him a corner three-pointer. He made it. Then he made a three at the end of the first. That 23-game streak, that's currently the second longest streak in the NBA, behind Dante DiVincenzo, who has 25 straight games with 2 or more threes. This is tied for the 3rd longest streak in the NBA this year. It is the 2nd longest streak in Grizzlies franchise history, behind Desmond Bane's previous record-long streak of 30 games. But that 30-game streak that Bane had, that overlapped the 2022 and 2023 seasons. So this current streak of 23 straight games is the longest single-season streak in franchise history of making 2 or more threes. So Bane did everything you would expect of him. I mean, maybe he was rusty on his mid-range shots. He left several of those shorts, but to my eye, the guy did not miss a beat. Perhaps that's what happens when you take 9 weeks to heal up from a sprained ankle. I mean, it was a severely sprained ankle. But Desmond Bane looked good out there, and because of it, the Grizzlies, also looked good. And let's talk about Jaren's passing. So Jaren, like I said, career high, 7 assists. Not all of them where they just pitch it out and a guy make a three-pointer variety. And those are important. Like, if that's the correct play, like if Jaren's getting double-teamed in the post, it's good to see him kick it out to three-pointer. Like, he had a skip pass where he was double-teamed, threw it across the court. That's an assist, but that's a good assist where it's an open three. Like, there were some of Luke's assists where he threw it to Jaren. Jaren made a tough contested three. Like, those are easier to come by assists. Like, Jaren's were a little bit, I thought, stronger than that. And you even saw a couple where he would drive into the defense and the defense would react, like the big Gigi Jackson three in the 4th quarter that made it sort of a game. That was a time where Jaren drove into the lane. This is after the Grizzlies had some very good ball movement up until that point on the possession. He drives into the lane. Lou Dort cheats in. Jaren correctly identifies Gigi Jackson as the open shooter. He kicks it out. This is a progression of Jaren's game that we've seen this season. It's very, very positive. He also had a really cool drop-off pass to Conchar for a cutting layup. So Jaren did not just get easy assists on the way to his career-high 7 assists. Jaren also had 19 points. He made 3 out of 4 three-pointers. He had 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and 1 block. You could, complain a little about the 5 turnovers. Some of them were especially painful as the Grizzlies tried to mount the rally. But, hey, 7 assists, 5 turnovers, that seems reasonable to me. And of course, some of those turnovers were on the offensive foul variety. We would love to see Jaren doing less of that. Now, another guy who I don't think I've mentioned yet who had a really, really good game for the Grizzlies was Santi Aldama. Maybe Santi is the beneficiary of increased defensive attention going to somebody else, going to Jaren and Desmond Bane. Santi had 16 points. He had 6 rebounds. He had 4 assists. He had a steal, a block. He played 39 minutes. That's the second most minutes he's played in any game this season. They rode the guys pretty hard. They rode their starters with the heavy minutes. Admittedly, the bench, not exactly what you wanted with, Wenyen Gabriel and Dejan Giroux still out there, but Gigi played 35 minutes, Santi played 39 minutes, Jaren played 36 minutes. Bane, they said they were going to limit his minutes or just be responsible. They played 32 minutes for Desmond Bane. That feels like it's responsible. Even Luke Kennard, whose minutes they'd kept pretty low in some of these other games, he actually topped 30 minutes. But I thought Santi played really, really well in this one. He did miss 2 out of his 3 free throws, so he continues inexplicably having a terrible season from the free throw line. He's shooting 60% for the season. Last year, he was 75% from the line. So some of Santi's dip in stats this year, dip in field goal percentage, notably, easily explainable because there's no Ja Morant. He's getting way fewer dunks this year. I think we can tie that directly to the absence of Ja Morant. Last season, about 11% or 12% of Santi Aldama's field goal attempts last year were dunks. This year, only 7% of them are dunks. That clearly explains Santi Aldama's 2-point field goal percentage going down this year. That does not explain why his free throw percentage has taken a dive. Ja Morant does not help Santi Aldama's free throw percentage. So that's a concerning trend. But in this game, a very good performance from Santi Aldama. I felt like he really, I think, made his mark in the first half. There was a second quarter stretch where he hit a big three, then he got an assist, and it was a really good assist, I felt like, because he just made a three. Maybe he wanted to shoot again, but he saw the better option was to throw it to Luke Kennard. Luke Kennard makes the three. So Santi, on successive possessions, makes a three, assists Luke Kennard for a three, and then does this highlight reverse dunk. It was incredible. And so Santi had 13 of his 16 points in the first half. He led all scorers in the first half with those 13 points. Now, Luke Kennard, he scored 9 points to go with those 9 assists. He made 3 out of 7 3-pointers. All 7 of his field goal attempts were 3-pointers. GG Jackson, so this was his 4th career start, made some good highlight plays, had a really nice driving layup where he got into Chet Holmgren's body and then went and finished on the other side of the rim. Like, that was a very athletic, impressive driving finish. Gigi got it going in the second half, particularly. He scored 15 of his 19 points in the second half. He also got to the foul line 8 times, made 7 out of 8 free throws, had a block. Now, Gigi in his last 15 games, he's averaging 17 points per game, 4 rebounds per game, 1 assist in just about 28 minutes per game. He's getting to the foul line 4 times per game in this stretch. His shooting splits are not that good, but I think they're honest, as in, I believe in these shooting numbers. What Gigi did when he first kind of broke out onto the scene for the Grizzlies, where he's making tons of 3-pointers, I think, all circle that as being like, that's probably not sustainable. I do feel like the shooting numbers he's done in the last 15 games, sustainable, because they're not that good. He's making 34% of his 3-pointers in this stretch, so the splits are 43, 34, 77. If I had to guess, that's probably what he's going to shoot from the field, maybe most years. I mean, maybe I'm selling him short, but I can imagine his career shooting splits being something similar to like Benedict Mathurin's, 43, 34, 77, that checks out. If he can average 17 points per 28 minutes played, yeah, that probably checks out. He might be this is maybe just a worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, a bench gunner, spark plug off the bench, a guy who can score. He's already shown those flashes at 19. So, that's pretty positive, I think. Off the bench, Conchar did his normal things. He had a really cool driving lefty layup where he sort of dropped, I think it was Cason Wallace. It was the end of the shot clock. A very cool play by Conchar early in the first half. He scored 9 points, had 3 assists, 2 rebounds, and a steal. And then Jake LaRavia. So Jake LaRavia scored 14 points off the bench. I thought it was a solid game from Jake. Initially, he was not making his shots, which is what we've grown accustomed to from Jake. Like, he's doing everything but the shooting. In the first half, he was just 1 out of 5 from the field and missed all 3 of his 3-pointers. He did make a very difficult 3-pointer near the end of the third quarter and then started off the fourth quarter as part of that Grizzlies run to slice into the lead. He started off the fourth quarter with a made 3, and he finishes with those 14 points. He also was 4 for 4 from the foul line. He keeps getting to the foul line. That's good to see. He also made some defensive plays, got 2 steals, also 4 rebounds. Now, Jake's numbers in the past 12 games since he returned from injury, he is averaging, by the way, in fewer minutes per game than Gigi Jackson, he is averaging more rebounds than Gigi, more assists than Gigi, twice as many steals, and more blocks, and also getting to the foul line more. Now, that's a very small sample size, but I consider that maybe not a negative for Gigi, but a strong positive for Jake LaRavia. Like, averaging 4.3 free throw attempts per game, That's really good. And of course, it's a very small sample size. That's your caveat. But like that's been a promising sign for Jake LaRavia, also averaging 1.5 steals per game over that stretch. The total numbers during that 12-game stretch, 11.7 points per game, 4.8 rebounds per game, 1.6 assists, 1.5 steals. Of course, the Grizzlies are 3-9 in that stretch. So I've been encouraged by that. However, as much as I do like what I've seen from Jake recently, and I don't cringe when he's in the game, we have to remember, and I need to heavily emphasize this for all stats happening right now, this is March. And March basketball in the NBA, it's not real. Especially when you're eliminated from the playoffs, the games aren't real. All the stats need to be sort of like looked at side-eyed. Like, I don't really trust you. Trust your impressions from like December and January basketball way more than what happens in March. But now that I've said that, I think it was another pretty solid game from Jake LaRavia. The other guys who played, Wenyen Gabriel and Dike Giroux. Wenyen Gabriel, whose 10-day contract expired today, is my understanding. He is eligible to re-sign on a 10-day, according to Keith Smith, so maybe that is accurate. But Wenyen Gabriel had 2 points. He keeps struggling on finishing for the Grizzlies, had 4 rebounds, and then Dike only played a few minutes, had 4 rebounds, 2 points, and a turnover. And now, with this loss, the Grizzlies find themselves tied for the 6th worst record. Unfortunately for us, and for those of us who, or for those of you, maybe more accurately, who really care about the Tankathon standings, I consider myself above that fray. I'm happy with whatever happens. The Grizzlies find themselves tied with the Raptors because the Raptors have now lost 7 games in a row. So it looks like the Grizzlies are going to either finish with the 6th or 7th worst record, which, by the way, is what I said would happen weeks and weeks ago when I said just play your guys, try to win basketball games, have fun. I want to see Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. playing together. The thing I got wrong, and I will admit, I did not understand how badly the Raptors would lose. I thought the Raptors, because they didn't get their pick, if it finished outside of the top 6, would try a little bit harder to win some basketball games. However, the Grizzlies' schedule, even if they got Desmond Bane back, the Grizzlies' schedule coming up is getting harder and harder. They are departing on a road trip. They play the Kings on Monday night, and they play the Warriors on Wednesday. That game's on ESPN. And they play the Spurs and the Nuggets. That's a 4-game road trip. Then they return home for the Lakers. By the way, that Lakers game, March 27th, that is the Grizzlies watch party in Nashville, the last watch party of the season, Wednesday, March 27th. Grizzlies, Lakers, come out, have some fun with me at Noble's Beer Hall. And then after that home game, which I'll be honest, good chance they lose. Home games after a West Coast trip, traditionally very, very hard. I mean, statistically, there's studies on this. I've talked about it before. Teams returning back east after a West Coast trip perform worse than expected. Something about jet lag in your bodies or something. But science supports this theory. But then after that, they go back out on the road to play the Magic, the Pistons, and the Bucks. So the Grizzlies, even if they get Vince Williams Jr. back, who he's not, by the way, returning for the Monday night game against the Kings. Even if we get Vince back, even if we get Brandon back, even if Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Vince Williams Jr., Brandon Clark all play in a game, even if we get Marcus Smart back, the Grizzlies are probably still going to lose the majority of their games for the rest of the year. If you're comparing our schedule with the Raptors, well then, it's still going to be very tight. The Raptors do play the Wizards and Nets 2 times apiece, but every other game that the Raptors play for the rest of the year is against a playoff team. So they probably will still continue losing. And with that, I think I can wrap up this slightly shorter episode, looking over my notes to see if I missed anything. Oh, I misspoke. Luke Kennard's 9 assists, that tied his career high. That is a new season high and tied his career high. So lots of assists were flying around in this game. And I guess looking ahead to the Kings game this evening, Lots of players are going to be out. Luke Kennard is not playing in Monday night's game. He's out with personal reasons. Vince Williams Jr. is doubtful. So that's 9 players who are out. And if you include Vince, who's doubtful, that's 10 players unlikely to play. So probably, I assume we're going to see Jordan Goodwin suit back up and play in this game. Unfortunately, Scottie Pippen Jr. is one of those 9 guys who is out. I think otherwise we would expect to see Scottie Pippen Jr. play. And also, now that I think about it, that makes me feel like they're going to re-sign Wenyen Gabriel sometime today so they have another body to play this game against the Kings tonight. Anyways, if you want to support this show, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Come join the Grits and Grinds Slack channel. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you don't do that already. Come out to the watch party in Nashville on March 27th at Noble's Beer Hall at 7 p.m. All right, you guys have a great Monday. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.